Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR official 24 channel. Gashes that no bone, least of all Noah, can hold back as the room fills with familiar faces drawn together by fear, curiosity, and an implied sense that commodity monumental is about to erupt. And from the moment the judge takes the bench, the atmosphere feels wrong, heavy, nearly electric, as if the verity itself is pacing impatiently beneath the face staying for its moment to strike. Sienna sits strictly beside her attorney, her face precisely composed yet betraying cracks of fear in her eyes, while Noah, seated just behind her with Faith and Nick Hard, watches her with unwavering fidelity. Induced this hail is simply a formality, another handicap they will overcome together, ignorant that his entire understanding of the woman he loves is about to be ripped piecemeal. Across the aisle, Matt stands alone, no legal platoon bordering him, his posture calm but his aspect razor-sharp, the look of a man who has carried a burden too long and has eventually decided that silence is no longer an option. And as murmurs ripple through the observers, Victor's stern presence brewing in the reverse row, Sharon's upset glances zipping between Noah and Sienna, Summer gripping Kyle's hand as if bracing for impact. The judge calls the case to order, and at first the proceedings move predictably. Attorneys swapping procedural arguments, expostulations raised and sustained, until Matt suddenly asks to address the court directly, his request causing a stir and egging the judge to vacillate before granting authorization. And when Matt rises, the room seems to shrink around him as he clears his throat and begins calmly, stating that this case cannot do without the verity, a verity he claims Sienna has buried for times. And at the sound of his words, Sienna's countenance falters for just a split second, enough for Noah to notice, enough to make his brow crinkle in confusion as he leans forward, quietly prompting her to meet his eyes. But she doesn't, rather gaping straight ahead as Matt drops the first stunner, revealing that Sienna has been living under a false identity, that the name she uses in Genoa City is the Bone on her birth instrument, and the courtroom erupts in gasps as her counsel jumps to object, only for the judge to overrule and demand substantiation, which Matt provides with regular perfection, documents, certified records, timelines that contradict everything Sienna has ever claimed about her once. Each detail warped like a blow, each disclosure shelling back another subcast of deception. And Noah's breathing becomes shallow as he shakes his head, brooding that this can't be true, that there must be a mistake, while Nick's jaw tightens and Sharon's eyes fill with gashes, seeing the emotional precipice her son is standing on. Matt doesn't stop there, his voice steady but laced with emotion as he explains that Sienna didn't just change her name. She canceled an entire life, including a child she abandoned times ago under circumstances far darker than anyone imagined. And at the word child, Noah freezes, his face draining of color as Sienna eventually turns toward him, her eyes glistering, her lips pulsing as if she wants to speak but can't find the courage. And when Matt reveals that the child in question is directly connected to the current case, evidence that Sienna manipulated events, prevaricated under pledge, and exploited Noah's love to cover herself, the courtroom falls into stupefied silence, so complete that the sound of Noah's heartbreaking feels nearly audible. And he stands suddenly, gashes discovering over as he demands that Sienna tell him it's not true, his voice cracking in a way that silences indeed Victor's imposing presence. And for a long, agonizing moment, Sienna says nothing, her silence louder than any concession, until eventually she breaks down blubbing, as she admits that she was hysterical, that she allowed she could overrun her history, that she no way meant to hurt Noah. But the damage is formally done, because Noah collapses back into his seat, his face buried in his hands as times of trust disintegrate in seconds, his heartbreaks echoing through the room while Sharon rushes to his side, and Nick places a defensive hand on his shoulder, rage and heartache warring in his eyes as he gapes at Sienna like a foreigner. And the judge calls for order, gavel pounding, but order is insolvable now, that the verity has exploded. And as Matt delivers the final, ruinous detail, that Sienna's secret directly impacted Noah's family and nearly destroyed lives beyond her own, the judge has no choice but to recess the hail, citing the need for farther disquisition, yet the legal outgrowth feels insignificant compared to the emotional wreckage left before, because Noah rises formerly more, gashes streaming freely down his face, and tells Sienna, through choked words, that he loved her, that he'd have stood by her if she had just trusted him with the verity, and those words cut deeper than any blameworthiness, leaving Sienna broken and shaking as she's led from the courtroom, her secret eventually exposed, her future uncertain, while Matt watches with an admixture of relief and anguish, knowing that while justice may have been served, innocence has been lost ever, and as the Newman family gathers around Noah, trying desperately to hold him together, the camera lingers on his barred face, landing the raw desolation of a man who realizes in one brutal autumn that the person he trusted most was erected on falsehoods, setting the stage for unrecoverable consequences, fractured connections, and a Genoa city ever changed by one crazy court meeting where the verity eventually came out and nothing will ever be the same again. The fallout from that insane courtroom disclosure doesn't end when the judge adjourns the hail, because the real trial begins the moment Noah stumbles out into the courthouse hallway, his legs slightly holding him up as swells of treason, demotion, and grief crash over him all at formerly, and the sterile white walls feel to close in as flashes of the once renewal in his mind. Every smile Sienna gave him, every rumored pledge, every moment he defended her to his family, now poisoned by the knowledge that so much of it was erected on falsehoods, and Sharon wraps her arms around him tightly, grunting solace he can slightly hear while Nick stands frozen for a moment, fists gripped, torn between chasing after Sienna to demand answers and staying by his son's side as he fully unravels. Meanwhile, Sienna is attended down a separate corridor, her heart breaks echoing off the marble bottoms as she realizes there's no handling presently, no reinvention left to hide before. Because Matt's disclosure has burned her precisely constructed world to the ground, and with every step she takes, the weight of her once presses harder, recollections of the child she left behind submerging back with brutal clarity, bitsy hands, unanswered cries, a choice she made in fear that has now returned with ruinous consequences, while journalists begin to swarm outdoors, seeing blood in the water, crying questions about the secret child, the false identity, and Noah Newman's fractured heart, turning private pain into public spectacle. Back outside, Victor corners Matt with a light sharp enough to cut glass, demanding to know why he awaited so long to reveal the verity, and Matt, though visibly shaken, stands his ground, explaining that he tried to cover the innocent, that he hoped Sienna would come clean on her own, but when she didn't, he refused to let Noah be destroyed any further, and Victor, after a long silence, gives a curt nod of reticent respect, knowing each too well the damage secrets can induce when they mold, yet his concern shifts incontinently to Noah, because Victor can formerly see the long-term scars this treason will leave, scars that could harden Noah in dangerous ways. Latterly, at Crimson Lights, the familiar warmth of the coffee house does nothing to ease the pressure as word spreads through Genoa City like campfire. Patrons brooding in hushed tones as Noah sits at a corner table gaping blankly into a cold mug of coffee, Summer swimming near doubtful whether to push him to talk or give him space, while Kyle listens still, wrathfulness stewing beneath his calm surface, because he advised Noah that Sienna was hiding commodity, and now that he's been proven right, the palm tastes bitter and concave. Noah eventually breaks the silence, his voice slightly above a tail, as he admits that what hurts the most isn't the falsehoods themselves, but the fact that Sienna no way trusted him enough to tell the verity, that she looked into his eyes every day knowing she was stealing his right to choose, and Sharon's heart shatters as she hears echoes of her own once miscalculations in his words, realizing that despite all her sweats to guide her son else, he has still learned firsthand how ruinous deception can be. Across city, Sienna sits alone in a holding room, her makeup barred with gashes, replaying Noah's devastated face over and over, and when Matt is eventually allowed to speak with her intimately, she switches out at him, criminating him of ruining her life, only to collapse moments laterally, admitting through heartbreaks that she was scarified of losing Noah, that she induced herself the verity would destroy everything, not realizing that the taradiddle would be far worse, and Matt, though sympathetic, tells her gently but forcefully that love erected on falsehoods is no way real, that Noah merited honesty no matter the cost. As night falls, Noah returns home to the Newman estate, the majesty of the estate feeling strangely suffocating as recollections of Sienna'S horse laugh echo in the halls, and he retreats to his room like a wounded child, ignoring Victor's knock at the door until his forefather eventually leaves, understanding that some battles must be fought alone, and Noah sinks onto his bed, eventually allowing himself to cry openly, the kind of raw, body, shaking heartbreaks that come when grief strips down pride, and in that moment, he admits to himself that he loved Sienna more deeply than he realized, that he saw a future with her, one now irreparably destroyed. The coming morning brings no relief, only a new subcast of pain as legal ramifications begin to surface, with Nick informing Noah that Sienna may face serious consequences for perjury and fraud, and while part of Noah feels vindicated, another part recoils at the study of her suffering, because love doesn't simply dematerialize when trust is broken. It lingers, paining and undetermined, making every decision feel insolvable. Genoa City buzzes with enterprise about the mysterious child at the center of the reproach, propositions flying about who the child is, where they're now, and whether they might ultimately surface, adding another ticking time lemon to an formerly unpredictable situation, and Victor's still orders and disquisition, determined to uncover the full verity before it explodes again, because he knows secrets have a way of resurfacing at the worst possible moment. Days laterally, Noah eventually agrees to see Sienna one last time, meeting her in a quiet visit room where the air is thick with remorse, and when she reaches for his hand, he pulls down, gashes welling in his eyes as he tells her that he'd have helped her, defended her, indeed accepted the child if she had just trusted him, and Sienna breaks down fully, admitting that she didn't suppose she merited that kind of love, that she spent her whole life running from her miscalculations rather of facing them, and Noah listens, heart aching, because her words explain everything yet change nothing, and when he eventually stands to leave, he tells her farewell with a futurity that leaves her blubbing alone, knowing that some islands, formerly burned, can no way be rebuilt. As Noah walks down, he doesn't feel check, only prostration, but there's a faint spark of resoluteness beneath the pain, a determination not to let this treason define him. Indeed, though the road ahead is uncertain and steep, and as Genoa City settles into an uneasy calm, it's clear that this crazy court meeting has left endless marks on everyone involved. Trust shattered, trueness exposed, futures rewritten. And while the legal case will continue, the emotional verdict has formally been delivered, because in the end, the topmost casualty was Sienna'S secret or Matt's disclosure, but Noah's innocence, lost in a single, ruinous moment that will hang him long after the courtroom doors have closed. Noah is really upset. Sienna and Victor are taking control of things. Adam is trying to mess up the AI program. Kane Ashby is getting beat up. Sienna Bacall is making a move. Sharon Newman just heard some bad news. First of all, Adam Newman has some news for Victor Newman. Their computer people are working on something that will make the AI program attack the wrong targets. This is news. The bad news is that it is not ready yet. Adam Newman tells Victor Newman about this. The people who fix computers for Victor Newman and Adam Newman are testing this thing. They want the AI program to go after targets. Like I said, it is still in the testing part. Sienna and Victor are working together. Adam is trying to sabotage the AI program. Noah is still really upset. Victor thinks that testing is not necessary and tells his son Adam to tell the IT people to push the button right away. Victor is dealing with the algorithm. Things start to get better when Victoria Newman shows up and complains about how hard it's to fix the problems. Victor is really smart. He thinks it would be a good idea to get the PCPD to investigate Kane and Phyllis Summers. Then Victoria reminds Victor that he could get in trouble with the law for using the bad AI software on Arabesque. Victor knows that the AI software is a problem, and he does not want to get caught by the police. Victor is trying to figure out what to do about the algorithm and the trouble it is causing. So, if Victor wants to get the Newmans in trouble by telling the police, the Newmans will also get Victor in trouble. That is a problem. Over at Crimson Lights, the coffee shop is really busy. Esther Valentine is being super nosy when she sneaks a look at Chelsea Lawson's laptop. She asks Chelsea Lawson about what's going on with the Newmans and the attack. Chelsea Lawson tells Esther Valentine that it is all made up. Then Chelsea Lawson texts Adam to figure out what to do about all the bad things people are saying. The Newmans and their problems are really bothering Chelsea Lawson and Adam. Noah Newman is really worried about what Nick Newman's going to do. Nick has Matt Clark tied up, asleep in the trunk of his car. Noah thinks that Nick might hurt Matt. He even thinks that Nick might kill him. Nick does not say that he will not hurt Matt. Matt Clark is a person. At the time, Sienna is listening to Nick and Noah talking. Then she runs to tell Victor what she heard. Victoria sees Sienna before Sienna goes to a meeting at Crimson Lights with Adam. Victoria, Adam, and Chelsea get together to think of a way to stop things from getting worse. They also want to figure out how to deal with Kane and Phyllis. At the time, Victor is talking to Sienna. She tells him what is going on and eventually shares her feelings about Noah with Victor. She thinks that she and Noah will not be together for a time. Victor thinks it is an idea for Sienna to go back to Los Angeles. Have we seen the last of Sienna? Victoria, Adam, and Chelsea are still thinking about what to do about Kane and Phyllis. Meanwhile, Sharon is at her house. She finds out about what is going on with Matt. Sharon gets Nick's vengeance, but doesn't want Noah involved. She also tells Nick that he would be traumatized by his intended actions. Nick argues back, and then Victor and Sienna burst in. Victor demands to be the one to deal with Matt while Nick gets medical help. Everyone agrees except Nick. OMG, does N indeed begin to cover the seismic shockwaves ripping through Genoa City as Noah Newman fully freaks out. Sienna and Victor Newman seize control with iron resoluteness, and Adam Newman, formerly again the wild card, moves in the murk to sabotage the veritably AI program that promised to change Newman Enterprises ever, because this week the young and the restless explodes with paranoia, power plays, and emotional fallout that proves the Newmans can no way overrun their own heritage. And it all begins when Noah realizes that the Slice Edge AI system he believed would secure his future has come an armament aimed straight at his family, his reason, and his soul, as the algorithm starts producing eerily accurate prognostications that expose secrets no bone ever fed into it, causing Noah to helical into fear when it flags anomalies tied to his once opinions, his failed connections, and indeed his suppressed guilt over choices he made when he allowed. No bone was watching, and as Noah paces his office, sweating and insomniac, he becomes convinced the AI isn't just scraping data but ever learning him, mirroring his fears back at him until he switches out at his platoon, pushes down those trying to help, and intimately melts down in a boardroom meeting that leaves directors brooding and Victor narrowing his eyes, because Victor Newman no way misses a crack in the armor. And while Noah is unraveling, Sienna, cool, brilliant, and far more strategic than anyone gave her credit for, way into the chaos with a clarity that shocks indeed Victor, as she calmly takes charge of the AI division, locks down access, reroutes decision, making authority, and insists on an internal inspection that effectively sidelines Noah, which only deepens his paranoia and emotion. Yet Sienna doesn't blench, because she knows this is bigger than Noah's pride. It's about control, survival, and the future of Newman Enterprises, and Victor, ever the chess master, snappily recognizes a kindred spirit in Sienna, someone who understands that power isn't seized with noise but with timing, silence, and absolute certainty. So he backs her play, intimately championing her leadership while intimately tasking her with uncovering whether the AI has been compromised from within, because Victor senses sabotage long before evidence emerges. And his instincts point to one man he can no way completely trust, Adam Newman, who watches all of this unfold with a knowing boo, because Adam has always believed the AI program was a disaster staying to be, not because the technology itself is defective, but because he knows his family, and he knows that giving a machine access to Newman data is like handing a loaded gun to a ghost. So when Adam discovers that the AI's core armature can be subtly altered to skew protrusions, misallocate coffers, and still undermine crucial players, he sees an occasion not just to stop the program, but to expose the insincerity of those who pushed it through without hearkening to him, and under the cover of night, Adam slips past security, executes a surgical sabotage that leaves no egregious fingerprints, and injects a sense circle design to make the AI contradict itself over time, eroding trust in its labors until the board has no choice but to pull the draw. Yet Adam's move isn't purely humanitarian, because as always, his motives are tangled with resentment, ambition, and a deep, paining need to prove that he was right each on, and the fallout is immediate as the AI begins issuing disagreeing recommendations that shoot departments.